All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Take Back My Brain podcast. Today, I have with me Dr. Olivia Pompa, and she is just lovely as can be. So, she's an elite HCF platinum doctor, and she's in the same health practitioner group that I am, which is so much fun. She's a health consultant that lives in Puerto Rico, and her goal is to influence the entire island and help 100,000 people change their diet by 2024. So that's an amazing goal, Olivia. Congratulations. Yeah. And I know you're going to reach that. So
yeah, I think I will too. After moving here, it was a big change. It was a really big transition. One, because the food is really not healthy here. I hate to say it. You live on the middle of an island. It's hard to get food, good quality food, of course. And a lot of the restaurants here, it's very island food. So everything's fried.
Oh, okay. I never would have thought of that. Yeah.
Yep. And if you know my parents, right, they're foodies. So we love eating out and trying new food, but it's hard to be accommodated here. So it was a big transition and, but I think God put me here for a reason. It's like being around all these people that are just sick and struggling. I was like, wow, like this is why I was here. I thought I was coming here just to enjoy the beach, but now I know why I'm here. I'm here to influence an island that really needs help. So that's my goal.
Definitely. So when you're going out to eat on the island, I mean, one of your favorite things to talk about is fat. So we're going to dive into that today. So this is going to get juicy about the fat today.
Yes.
So that would be a huge issue, right? So everything is fried and we're really talking about bad oils then.
Yeah. And, your quick thing is stay away from the fried. But then, you look at the healthy part of the menu and you're like, well, everything else is still cooked in bad oils, right? So, it's like we can't run away from it. And I always tell my clients the first thing I do, right? I teach them the cellular handling diet and I teach them the powers of fat, right? Yep. And I say, I want you to avoid vegetable oil, seed oils, canola oil, hydrogenated fats like the plague. And they look at me like I have 7 heads. And I'm like, no, I'm serious.
Yeah. Oh, well, it's easy to avoid canola oil, they say, because, we don't have to buy Wesson corn oil anymore, any of those other things. But if we're going health food wise, kind of tell the audience, like, what do you find in some health foods that you might be surprised?
Oh my gosh, it's such a good question. And in restaurants, I mean, everywhere. And I'm going to get to this, but I actually came up with a good strategy for restaurants. But everything. I mean, every oil, sunflower oil, seed oils, like you said, canola oil, but even sunflower, safflower. Yeah. What else? Rice bran oil. What about Asian dishes use a lot of sesame seed oil, right? Yeah. But that's still a seed oil. It's still toxic and inflammatory to the body. And so I found almost even mixed olive oils. Like I'll have a kitchen come up to me and be like, well, we're using olive oil, but this is the olive oil we use. Like they'll literally bring it to the table and I'll turn it over and I go, no, this isn't olive oil. This is a mixed olive oil, which means it's probably like 70% vegetable oil mixed with olive oil.
Right. So how do you know it's a mixed olive oil?
Well, I'm really picky at restaurants. I literally have this card that says 100% pure olive oil. And so I always kind of scare the kitchen because I do, the first thing I do is I look at the waitress, I say, or I'll call ahead if I feel like the restaurant isn't like super nice, like more nice restaurants, they're going to want to accommodate their guests, and so I'll call ahead and be like, hey, I am very sensitive or allergic to canola and vegetable oil. Please let me know if there is anything that I order, just double check that it's not cooked with any of these things. I can have 100% pure olive oil and I can have real butter because vegan butter is so common. Right. And, I'll have the chef always come to my table, which is like hilarious in many ways, but also kind of fun. Right. And, they'll say, yeah, we use this one. And they'll like show me a picture. And I'm like, no, it says mixed. So it'll always say on the back, it'll say mixed olive oil, or olive oil and canola oil, or it'll just say it right there on the label, but mixed olive oil is your key word.
Gotcha. How do you know if you got a real one? What if it doesn't say that on the back? Does that automatically mean that it's a real olive oil?
It's a good question. You know what I always stay away from is if it's in plastic. If it's in a big clear bottle in plastic, the other thing too is smell. I mean, you could easily ask them to pour it into a little container. Like just last night, we were at a nice hotel, but it wasn't super nice of a restaurant. And I ordered the salad and they didn't have any dressing for me to put on. I said, oh, do you have any olive oil? And they brought it out. And I said, but don't put it on the salad, bring it out to me first. And I smelled it and I was like, it does not smell like olive oil. So smell is a big way to tell.
Yeah. Yeah. And why don't they want it in plastic? 'Cause that's a
That's a
big
good
deal.
question. Yeah, I think it's huge. Well, one, plastic is just packed with toxins. I mean, it's a chemical made content, right?
Mhm, mhm.
Xenoestrogens are in that plastic. And one of the big things is fats love to pull toxins out, right? And so we would never want a high quality fat like a good olive oil in plastic. And then the other thing is plastic is usually clear, right? So
Right.
light can penetrate that oil and oxidize it and denature it faster than if it was in a dark glass bottle. So
Right. Because what denatures any kind of oil is heat, light, and oxygen, right?
you got it.
So you have to have that dark bottle. It has to be stored in a cool place. I always tell my clients, okay, and now we have to talk about your fats because what do you have? And they tell us, tell me what they have. And I'm like, where do you have it stored? Right. Because it's such always above the stove or next to the stove. And
yeah,
okay, you
right.
gotta
Right
move it.
there, right
You
next
gotta
to the
move it.
stove. It's
Yeah.
like
I
exactly. It's like
didn't
the worst
know.
place to have it. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know. I always
But
kept my oil there.
that's what we're here for. We teach these little things, right? I mean, it's super important. And oils, here's the thing too. If we talk about ancient cultures, really like oil was probably kind of rare, except like olive oil that has been around for centuries. But seed oils, I mean, they would have had some pretty amazing technology to extract seed oils all the time.
Right.
And so we really have to think, okay, well, if this isn't something that ancient cultures had, it must be pretty delicate, right?
Mhm.
So yeah, important to
Yeah,
talk
because
about.
it's hard to store.
Yeah, I agree. But
Yeah.
anyway, olive oil in general, anyway, when you're home, it's not a good oil to cook with, right?
Right.
Especially in a high quality olive oil that we want to be eating.
Mhm.
It's a very low smoke point. So it burns super quick. So I prefer things like ghee butter and tallow,
Yep.
right? To cook with. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So you mentioned not having real butter at restaurants, and vegan butter is kind of a thing right now. So let's chat about that because a lot of people think they're eating healthy, like, oh, this is the butter. I went plant-based and this is the butter I'm using. I'm like, oh my gosh, no, we can't do that because you're like your liver is going to hate you later. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that.
And a
What
lot of
do you
these
think about
butters,
that?
yeah, even if it isn't vegan, like that's why I put it on this, when I tell the kitchen, I always say, make sure it's real butter
Mhm.
because, you know, again, like even like Land O'Lakes butter, right? They put canola oil in it. Why? Because it's cheap. Like getting real butter now is expensive for a lot of these companies. And so they're always looking, and I don't blame them for this in a way, but they're cutting corners, right? And that's just what this world has done to the food industry. But they even put vegetable oils in butter. So yeah, I'm very clear about what I want. Real butter or 100% pure olive oil. Yeah.
Yeah, and you bring up a good point. People just don't realize what's being put in there. And so I teach my clients that every couple months, read the back of the package that you've been buying. Has it changed? Has the oil changed? And
that's such a good topic.
And my daughter's like, hey, we're going to get that. I'm like, no, the oil changed in that. She's like, you've got to be kidding me.
I love that. That's so amazing. I was eating these, I do really well with just pure rice, like rice English muffins, or rice pasta, and I think coming off grain or when you're away from grain for so long, something like organic brown rice is a good thing to move into, quinoa, buckwheat, right, whatever. And I had been eating these English muffins for years. I mean, years. And they never had any oil in them. And all of a sudden, I'm at the grocery store like 3 weeks ago, and I'm telling you, I eat them all the time. And I turned over and they had put sunflower and safflower oil in them. I was so bummed.
I know. I was so sorry. Yeah,
that's what it
breaks your heart. You're like, why? Why did you do that?
Yeah, but it's a good topic, right? Is hey, always be aware, always be reading labels no matter what. Even if you're at Whole Foods, right? Or Sprouts, just because it's a health food store does not mean it's healthy. They put a lot of vegetable oil in a lot of those foods. And even though they flag certain ingredients, they're not flagging vegetable oil. So
that is true. That is true.
Yeah.
And some of the more popular brands, like say Kerrygold butter, like I didn't know they even had a lawsuit. That's how like out of touch I was.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
It's wild. Like, and that's how like our favorite butter. My cat even likes it. She's like a butter snob.
My cat likes it too. That's hilarious.
Yeah. And so if it wasn't Kerrygold butter, she's like, not eating it. And we stopped buying it because it's got genetically modified, the cows are fed genetically modified foods and is maybe not 100% pure. And I mean, how many years have all of us in the health industry been buying Kerrygold butter?
Yeah. Yeah.
It
And,
is so
you know,
deceptive.
yeah. And, you know, and you make such an amazing point, but I know probably listening to our listener right now, they're going, but that's all I can get. Right. Like even here in Puerto Rico, like I've been to the Walmart several times here because where I live, it's very remote. It's super far away from everything. And we only have a Walmart. And I've gone, you know, a couple times in hopes that I would find something health food that if I ever needed something randomly, I could grab it. They have nothing, right? Except Kerrygold butter. So I'm like, oh, what about those poor people that just have access to nothing?
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Good, better, best, right? Good, better,
Good, better, best. Exactly. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
we'll give you those options, you know, good, better, best. Not
Yeah.
everybody can
Yeah.
get the high quality olive oil, but or the non-Kerrygold high, you know, grass-fed butter, but it is way better than, you know, the non-grass-fed
Then
butter.
the great,
100%
or the Land
butter.
O'Lakes with the canola oil in it.
Exactly. Don't do that. So
Yeah.
yeah, and if that's what you can get, that's what you can get, and that's great because you know you're still helping your body. But let's talk about what do bad fats do to your cells?
Yeah. Oh, that's such a good topic. You know, the 5 R's, right?
Yeah.
My father's 5 R's. I'm sure have you gone through the 5 R's in your podcast yet?
We haven't, so go ahead.
Okay. Well, I was just gonna, you know, that's the roadmap of fixing the cell. And we know that the cell, right, this big circle like this, it has a membrane, which is its cell membrane, right? And it's made of fat. It's a bilipid layer of fat. And it's super important that we are what we eat, just as the animals, right? And so it's super, super important to eat high quality fats in our diet. And, you know, fats that have been denatured, something like canola and vegetable oil, right? It has a ratio of about 20-1, omega-6 to omega-3, right? So naturally, a lot of good fats that are natural, that are made by God, right? In its natural state are about a 1-to-1 ratio, right? So a lot of these fats, like seed oils that have been denatured and just toxic, right? They're somewhere between 20-1, 50-1. Right. And so this influences the cell membrane. Yeah. These fats get into our cell membrane and they drive a lot of inflammation. Right. And our cell membrane research has shown it's a key player in the biological process of our cell. Right.
Oh, absolutely.
And so in fact, these oils can be in our cell membrane and influence our body for over a year. Isn't that wild?
Say that again.
They can drive inflammation, these oils in our cell membrane and in our body for over a year.
So you're saying from one exposure?
Just from one exposure. Yes, it could drive inflammation for over a year. Of course, there's things that we can do to mitigate that, right? There's ways to detox from it by, of course, swapping out the bad and adding the good. Right. Fasting, autophagy is something that can help get rid of bad things in the body, right? And so, but yeah, mostly it's the ratio of omega-6 to omega-3 and how it gets into the cell and influences the cell membrane.
Yeah. And when our cells are inflamed, especially as women, I mean, it disrupts men's hormone too, but as women, I think we feel it differently, right? So if we're eating a lot of bad oils, our hormones are going to scream at us.
Yeah. I always explain it like menopausal women, right? It's like the perfect example, right? Like when we have so little hormone, right? God didn't design us to be like miserable the rest of our lives.
Yeah, we're not meant to go into menopause and go, oh my God, I hate life.
if anything, it should be the opposite. Like because our hormones are lower, we're not having all these fluctuations, right? Like we should actually feel better, right? But because we have so much cellular inflammation, right, due to diet and et cetera, other things, right? The body can't hear that little bit of hormone. And so we feel awful, right? So diet's a big key player in health.
Definitely. Yeah. What do you think about oils? How does it affect the brain?
Oh, that's a big one. I knew you were going to go brain because of your podcast name. Well, like I said, you know, no matter what, our body is made up of cells, and how, you know, these fats get into our cell and influence our cell membrane, right? Which plays a massive role in biological processes in our body, right? If you have a lot of cellular inflammation, you can't get the good in, you can't get the bad out, right? Yeah. So I think that's really big.
Yeah. So have you seen in your practice where people are eating bad fats that it can contribute to, say, depression or insomnia or anything like that?
Yeah, a big amount. It drives inflammation. And, you know, one of the cool things that, you know, I keep realizing every time I sit with a client and the first thing I do, right, Laurie, is I teach them nourishment, right? I teach them how to eat first, right?
Yeah.
And this is always number one. I always teach remove the bad and replace with the good, right? The 2-2-2-2 rule. So I teach my clients 2 tablespoons of a short, medium, and a long chain triglyceride every day. So they're eating about 6 tablespoons of a high quality fat every single day.
Love it.
And, you know, we start them on some other supplements too, of course, that help open up these downstream detox pathways. But at the end of the 30 days, they always look at me and they go, oh my gosh, I feel amazing. And they're like, it's the supplements. I'm like, well, you know, it could be partly the supplements. You know, we've opened up some good pathways, but really it's your diet. That's how much just taking out bad fats that drive inflammation and giving your body the fat it needs to function properly, the brain to function properly. Right? We're not pronounced dead until your brain dies. How important is supporting your brain tissue, which is mostly made of fat?
Yeah.
Right?
And at least a quarter to a third of it is cholesterol.
Isn't that wild?
It is wild. Yeah.
Why are we so afraid of fat?
Because we've been duped with marketing.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what a hot topic. Fat is good for you, but good fat.
Good fat. So name off your top 3 fats that like brands and everything that you love.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, ghee butter number 1. Like you can do so many things with ghee, you guys. Bile pushes. I mean, you can just eat it. You can put it on a piece of good bread, right? Whatever you're doing, you can make stir fries with it. So ghee butter, it's my favorite cook oil. Actually, I eat it raw and I eat it when I cook too because it has a very high smoke point. So essentially what ghee is it's clarified butter. So they take really high quality grass-fed butter, right? And if you melt it at really low temperatures, you'll see the top layer is this like white fluffy stuff, right? It's the milk solids, right? And so they remove all the milk solids and you're left with this just caramelized fat from milk, basically, right? And because they remove the milk solids that burn very quickly, you have a high smoke point oil. So real butter is actually really low. It's actually lower than olive oil. You really, unless you're cooking at really low temperature, you shouldn't cook with real butter. It's really more of like a eat it in raw form type situation, right? But ghee, you can cook with it and it doesn't burn as quickly, you know? So that's number 1. Do you like ghee?
I love ghee.
I do too. I used to hate it. I couldn't stand the taste. And then I told myself, you know what?
It's used to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely an acquired taste, but I like kept cooking with it. I was like, you know what? I'm going to force myself to like this. I kept cooking with it. And then my brain just was like, oh, you love it. Right. And now I like love it raw too. So it's great. I love duck fat, like a good quality duck fat. So
that is really hard to find too.
It is hard to find. Yeah. But you can find some of these things from local farmers. So if you find a really good local farmer that has this array of different animals on the farm, like regenerative farming, right, is this rotation of animals, right? And they use an array of different animals, right? And so if you find these farmers that have just a lot of different animals, you can usually find it.
Right.
So duck fat, ghee, and I used to cook a lot with avocado oil.
Okay.
But I do prefer ghee. How about you? What are your favorites?
I would say butter, ghee, and oh gosh, I use a lot of tallow.
Yeah, me too.
Lard, so like bacon grease too.
Yes. That's a great one. Why didn't I think of that? Yeah.
Right. So that's always good. I love doing like homegrown sweet potatoes, you know, or like a root veggie mash and then put some saved bacon grease with it. And it's just so good. Or cabbage.
Yeah.
I love to do that with cabbage and just roast it in the oven.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. So a lot of these animal fats, right? We just keep going back to animal fat. We love animal fat. Yeah.
I honestly don't use a lot of olive oil just because I love animal fat so much.
Me too. I use olive oil in raw form.
Exactly.
I have the olive oil club.
Okay.
They're my favorite. I mean, it's this man, TJ, that sources olive oil from around the world. Every season, he travels and finds these organic vineyards that does it the right way, right?
Yeah.
And it's fresh pressed. So you get it like the month it was pressed. And it's in a dark, cold bottle, and it comes from one source. When you're sourcing olive oil, it should only come from one place, not multiple. Right. It's always suspicious that it could be mixed if it's coming from multiple vineyards.
Right. And we'll have a link for you down in the show notes. So Dr. Olivia is, tell us about the special that you have going on with that.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, you guys, this guy, man, he's amazing. And like I said, he sources this fresh pressed olive oil, and he will give you guys just to try it if you like it. So you can join this olive oil club. And every season they'll send you 3 bottles of his fresh pressed olive oil. Again, it's organic. It's in a dark bottle. It's extremely high quality. I mean, the taste is unmatched to any olive oil I've ever
It's
tasted in my
insane
life.
how good
Yeah.
it is. Yeah.
If you like olive oil, like, this stuff is amazing. You could even do it, you know, Laurie, for your people listening, your listeners, those that are understanding the brain and wanting to add these quality fats back in. Even if you don't like olive oil, you could seriously daily just take this olive oil and put it in a capsule and take it. Or you could do like shots of it, just get it in every day.
Yeah, it just be done. And it does burn just a little bit when it's going
down, the polyphenols.
High quality olive oil for sure.
Yeah. Anyway, for $1, he'll send you a bottle just to test it out.
It's an incredible deal.
Yeah. So we're going to put the link below and you guys have to check it out.
Definitely check it out. Definitely check it out. What else do you want to share with the listeners about oil?
Oh, I have a good one. Yeah. So going back to the restaurant thing, you know, we have to talk more in depth about this because people struggle. You know, like, I grew up in a very different scenario where I was very blessed to every meal was cooked for me, you know, because we knew the value of cooking at home. We knew that it was unmatched to find healthy food. You had to do it at home, you know, but, you know, there are a lot of people out there that really, really struggle. You know, I'm working with a client right now. She's about not 15. She's 18. She just started college. She's in a college dorm. Every meal she eats is out.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, what do you do in those situations? You know, I mean, I feel bad for her. I'm like, I don't know what I would do because I lived off campus. But, you know, what I did was this week, I decided, you know what, I'm going to make these cards that you can just hand to people. You don't have to say anything. You don't have to feel dumb. You don't have to feel weird talking about it. You just have to hand the server or the chef behind the table this card. And it explains that, hey, I'm sensitive to canola and vegetable oil. These are the oils I cannot have. Right. Using the words very specific, no mixed olive oils,
Right.
And then this is what I can have. And please let me know if the substitution can't be made. I'll order something else. Right. So I made these cards, right, that people can keep in their wallet.
Fantastic.
Yeah. So no matter where they go, they just hand it to the person and, you know, either yes, they can eat there or no, they can't. You know?
I think that's brilliant because, you know, we have cards like that for people with celiac disease.
Yeah, so that's awesome.
Right. And so why not have it for oils?
I agree.
Yeah. So what do you tell your young lady about what to do in the dorm?
Well, she's going to do a lot of what, you know, here's the issue. She's actually in a mold trap. So she's actually going to get out of there.
Okay.
Thankfully. Yeah. But in those situations, you just have to do the best you can, you know, so things like lunch meat, she can roll it up with raw cheese, right? She could do, she could put her olive oil in the room and do shots of it every day. She could do, you know, good quality fruit like apples and raw cheese, like I said. So she's just going to have to make some adjustments, but, you know, unfortunately where she lives, she's only at college restaurants. So it's just not quality. And that's what I was going to touch on is a lot of people who eat out a lot. I know there's a lot of people that just in their lifestyle, they enjoy eating out. My parents are one of those people.
Yeah.
You know? And so I have some strategies. Yeah, it is. And some strategies are eat at higher end restaurants, right? That will accommodate you. And Italian and Greek food. They always cook with olive oil.
Oh, sure.
Right.
And it's always pretty much real olive oil at higher end restaurants, or
you still need to ask. You still need to make your allergy known. So I'd still throw out my card, right? But they're not going to have a problem with substitutions because if you're at a nice restaurant that's authentic, like authentic Italian, they pretty much cook everything in olive oil. And so it's funny, like everyone will say, oh, Olivia loves Italian. And I'm like, I really do love Italian, but I go because my allergy is a lot easier to get around.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. What about oils on the skin? How do you teach people about how to put proper oils on your skin?
That's a really good one. You know, I had used Burt's Bees for years. Yeah. It has canola oil in it. Did you know that?
Yeah.
It has canola oil in it. Like people love Burt's Bees. Like I used it for years and I was just putting canola oil over my lips. That's a great question. You know, you guys still need to turn over labels and look for seed oils. Unfortunately, in skincare, there is a lot of seed oils, but your skin is the largest, right? It is the largest organ in the body. It's a sponge. And so I personally use olive oil on my skin. I actually use on my face for acne and wrinkles. I use an ozonated olive oil. Oh. And then I use on my skin, I use a tallow-based lotion.
Do you? Okay.
Yeah. But you can get it different scents and stuff from, we can put it in the show notes, like where I get this product from. But it's just essential oils and basically tallow. Yeah. So that's what I use on my skin. And
I'll love
shea
to
butter.
hear about that too.
Yeah. And then I use raw shea butter as well on my skin. So
yeah. So get a lot of sunlight in there. So it doesn't matter.
It doesn't even look bad. It actually kind of looks good.
Looks good. It's like a big rainbow coming in here. Then I can't see you.
Oh, there it goes. There it goes. Yeah, that
there we go. Now I can see you again. So perfect. I love the sunshine. It's going to get colder.
I do too. I know. It's already getting dark here.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm trying to think. We talked about restaurants. We talked about our skin, just food in general. Snacks are a huge culprit of bad oil.
Yeah. Sure. Turn it over, read the ingredients.
Turn it over all the time. And even if you've been using it for a while, every couple months, look at the back of it because I guarantee they change.
Yeah, no, that's what I learned too. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. And you just have to be an advocate for yourself.
100%.
When you go to restaurants, you just have to ask questions, even if you feel weird. But people are so used to food allergies now that it's most of the time it's not a big deal in restaurants. Should just ask.
Yeah. Literally, people walk up and they go, any allergies I need to be aware of? I mean, guys, this is today's world. People are sick. People have a lot of allergies. It's okay that you have one too.
Yeah.
Right.
This is a big thing in healing, because if you don't have healthy fats, you're never going to heal.
Yeah.
Your cell membrane will never heal. And as you're saying, Dr. Olivia, you're not going to get bad stuff out and good stuff in, because that cell membrane is just going to be junk.
And a lot of times people, they always want an answer for every little symptom that they have. Right. Like, oh, what is this? What is this? Why is this happening this way? Right. But sometimes if we just slow down and we just go, it's inflammation, right? Your body is showing you where the problem is genetically, right?
Yeah.
But there's just inflammation, right? So if there's the first thing we can do with every single patient, Laurie, is change their diet. The first thing we can do that can reduce inflammation quickly is diet change. Yeah. And it could be as simple as, if someone's not ready to do any crazy diet, right? Like maybe keto or whatever it is, right? If they just changed one thing, like take out bad fats and just be more aware of it and add the good in, we see changes all the time.
All the time. It's so foundational.
Especially in, oh my gosh, kids. I mean, kids, we should be talking about kids right now. I mean, kids are the ones that are in brain development. Our brains are not fully developed, right, Laurie, until we're 25, right? I mean, kids, we need to be talking about kids right now. I mean, kids in school, all they eat is junk food. All they're eating is vegetable oil and canola oil. It's just horrible. We should really be sending these kids to school with raw cheese, butter, right?
Yep. My kids, when they were little, they would take, sprouted, pecans, and we would dip them in butter. I mean, that was their snack.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And I would just, give them butter for a snack. I mean, I want their brain.
Have you seen the girl on TikTok? I'm not a TikTok person, but I saw this video. It went so viral, and her name was the Butter Girl. And got famous for eating sticks of butter.
No, I haven't.
It's good for her.
That's funny. Well, that's good for her cells and her hormones.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So what does somebody do, like if they don't have a gallbladder? Because and we're talking about kids, and I've come across a few kids lately that they have their gallbladders taken out.
Wow.
Because they're having so many bad fats, so they have so many gallstones. Yeah, and so it only gets worse. When our hormones are disrupted, that creates a lot of opportunity for gallstones to form as well. So there's a lot of women walking around without their gallbladders. So we want them to eat all this healthy fat, but they don't have a gallbladder. What do they do?
It's a great topic. Yeah. Oh, I love this topic. Wow. Well, there's a few things we can do. Number one, you always have to start low and slow, right? When we change an environment for anything, it could be diet, it could be exercise. Exercise is the perfect example, right, guys? If we change the environment of exercise, meaning we get back into the gym, are we going to jump into, a workout that's made for athletes? No. We're going to jump into something light and small, something that might only take you 2 days to recover from, not 8, right? So same thing with fat. We have to change this dietary environment. We just have to start slow. So instead of the 2-2-2-2 rule, we might do something like the 1-1-1, or even like half of that, right? And you start slow and you work up. And then there's always going to be things without a gallbladder. You don't have the ability to break down fat as easily as someone that does have it, right? Right. But your liver still produces bile. So your liver does take over, even though the gallbladder's gone. So your liver can still do it, guys, but we might want to help out. So something like ox bile or like a really good enzyme that has a lot of different enzymes in it, right?
Right.
Could really, really help. And then the last thing that comes to mind is when the gallbladder's gone, right? And you're having to digest fat, right? What needs help? The liver, right? The liver, the job has been put on that poor liver. So things like coffee enemas can be huge for someone that needs to digest fat. What do you think?
I love coffee enemas.
Me too.
Yeah.
Me too. Yeah. Me too.
There's going to be some listeners going, you love what?
I love it, but it's so great. I've turned so many people into coffee enemas. It's hilarious.
Oh, I know. I want to do a whole like series on coffee enemas because they really are life changing.
Yeah.
Really are. They're such an ancient, it's kind of like a castor oil pack. They're such an ancient healing tool that is pennies to do and super powerful. Literally. Super powerful.
Yeah.
You can't have any supplement that's going to increase your glutathione.
No.
Like coffee enema can, or flush out your liver and your gallbladder. So
yeah. And that's what we want to do to help digest fat, guys, right? If no gallbladder, we need to support the liver that still does the job, right? It just needs a little extra help. But yeah, the first time I did a coffee enema, I was like, nope, never doing it again. It was hard. But the more that I got into it, I mean, honestly, I just feel it release about 11 minutes in. I just start having this like release feeling. Like I kind of start sweating a little bit. It's incredible. I mean, honestly. So if you haven't done a coffee enema, guys, you got to try a coffee enema.
And we'll be doing a few podcasts on coffee enemas because
that's a great idea.
Really one of my favorite therapies for anybody if they're open to it, and it's a learning curve, and you just have to dive in.
And castor oil packs would be great too. So you can support your liver through that as well.
Yeah. Castor oil pack. I wear it almost every night. How about you?
If I remember, which is like ridiculous because it's the easiest thing in the world. But yeah, I have it literally sitting right next to my sink. So probably every other night I wear it.
Yeah. Which is great.
Yeah.
Yeah. So great.
Yeah. So what would you want to do for a client, like your listeners, that like if they didn't have a gallbladder, what would you specifically, Laurie, do?
I would definitely do castor oil pack, and we would start there because it's easy. And then we would add in some ox bile.
Yeah.
And go from there. And like butter doesn't really need to be digested. So we really concentrate on that, and egg yolks, and just really easy to digest fats. And and then we just gradually increase, like you're talking about, and move up into the advanced stuff like coffee enemas later on. But if your gallbladder is not there and your liver has to work so hard, you really have to support your pancreas too. So I'm always adding in pancreatic enzymes too. Hydrochloric acid, just basic foundations. You have your diet, but you have to digest it. So let's make sure all those enzymes are working before, we move into any kind of, detoxing or anything else.
No, I think that's so brilliant. Like sometimes you just have to help the enzymatic process speed up first before you can just jump in. It's just like coming out of a water fast, like you'd never dive into eating a full meal after a fast. Why? Because your gut has basically slept. The enzymes are not going, right? And so you kind of have to slowly work it up. So I love that. Good.
Yeah. I've come out of a water fast before, and I just crave fat. And I've definitely eaten too much fat a few times, and I'm like, goodness, you feel so awful. Then you go to a coffee enema, you feel better, and you're like, I think I need to fast again because I feel so bad. But it's hard it's hard to stop that fat craving.
Yeah, it is. When you become more metabolically flexible, your body really wants fat. And I found that, really. My friends used to, because I eat a lot of meat, I eat a lot of fat, and I used to just cover everything in butter. And my friends would look at me like, oh my gosh, how are you not obese? Like, how do you eat so much fat? I'm like, fat doesn't make you fat.
Right.
Like, you are made of fat. What are you talking about? In fact, I love the cholesterol conversation because we've learned as practitioners and going through this that if we remove cholesterol, your body's only going to make more, right? I mean, cholesterol is there as a healing mechanism in the body to build and repair. You need cholesterol.
Yeah, right? It's a healing balm. Really, it just goes in there and it just makes everything feel better.
Yeah. So true. And so, cholesterol, high cholesterol, right? It's not always dietary. And if it is, it's usually because this person eats too much glucose or carbs, right? Or just they're eating really unhealthy fats, right? Like vegetable oil.
It's a huge sign of inflammation. So how do you
There
know
you
if you're inflamed or not? Take a look at your cholesterol numbers,
Love
right?
that.
That can be a really big indicator. And I'm always telling people, like, scratch the inside of your arm and like make it super red and pretend that that's the inside of your artery. So you're eating bad fats, you're not sleeping well, you have all sorts of different kinds of stress going on, you're eating genetically modified stuff, and that makes the inside
Yeah.
of your artery really red and inflamed.
Oh.
So cholesterol says, oh, I sense inflammation in the body, and that's what it was designed to do with your body, is to come and like paint a layer on there.
Wow.
And then, but you don't change anything in your life. And so you scratch your arm again and it's inflamed again, and cholesterol comes back in and puts out that inflammation. And pretty soon you have this beautiful artery that's down to the size of a pencil.
Wow.
And I always ask my clients, I'm like, so was it cholesterol or was it lifestyle?
Wow.
And it's like the light bulb goes on. Like,
I love that. That's a great metaphor. I haven't heard that one before.
Yeah.
Laurie, I might have to steal that.
You can steal it all you want. You take it and go with it. Yeah. But it makes so much sense, because we vilify cholesterol when in fact cholesterol is doing what cholesterol is designed to do. It can't not do that.
To heal.
Yeah. It's supposed to be balm in our body. Yeah.
I love that. What a perfect way to kind of like envision everything we just talked about, right? Fat is not bad. It's a healing tool the body has, right? And so we have to stop demonizing fat. Just understand the difference between the fats.
I love that. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else you want my listeners to know?
Oof.
Any parting remarks that you want to share with them? Words of wisdom?
Shots of olive oil. That's one I love.
You're gonna do a shot. Do it of olive oil.
I wish I had my olive. I should have did an olive oil shot with you guys.
Oh, that
or showed you at least showed you the bottles. I should have brought them. Well, let's talk really quick about the fat in meat.
Okay,
right?
Yeah, that's
because
great.
that's another really good topic that I think we kind of glazed over a little bit about how this ratio should be 1-to-1, right? That's how meat, should be, right? The fat within the meat, at least, right? Just like the oils that we eat, it should be close to this 1-to-1 ratio, right?
Yep.
And grain-fed meat is not, right? It's actually very close to the ratio that vegetable oil has. Isn't that wild?
It is.
I mean, grain-fed meat is not natural. And it's not healthy for our cell membranes. It's not healthy for our body and our brain, right? And so, yes, we're talking about oils, but we also have to focus on the animal fat that we're eating every day, right? And grass-fed is always going to be superior. I kind of look at meat like a pyramid, right? Like what's hardest to find and most expensive, right? But the healthiest. Yeah, exactly. Right. The healthiest is going to be your grass-fed, grass-finished, right? Your raw dairy, etc. Right. And then you have pasture raised, right? Pasture raised by definition legally, right? They have all these names legally. It just means that cow has grazed the grass at least at some point in their lifetime, but they're still eating grain. Right. And then a step down from that, you have organic beef. Right. So that is these cows are eating organic grain, which is better than nothing. So you have good, better, best. Right. And then under organic, just organic, you have natural, which literally is just a marketing scheme, basically. Right. Convincing you it's healthy, but it doesn't really mean much. And then you have conventional, which is these animals are not healthy at all. And so I think that kind of helps people, because when you walk into a grocery store, you're kind of like looking at all these meats and you're like, well, I don't know. This one says natural, it must be healthy. This one says grass-fed. I don't even know what that means. Right. So I think understanding that pyramid, what's at the best at the top is going to be your closer ratio to 1-to-1, which is your healthier fat, good for your brain, good for your hormones. So that's important. I think eating grass-fed always is super important.
Yeah. And if there's anything that you're going to spend your budget on, I teach my clients, whatever you're going to do with your broccoli, do with your broccoli, but buy the best meat that you can afford.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So
and ditch the snacks.
Wonder where to spend your dollars and buy the best meat you can afford.
I love that. That's amazing. And I say that too around the fact that people will be like, oh, well, I can't afford to eat healthy. You got to make some big changes then, because usually the reason why you can't afford to eat healthy is because you're buying snacks that are $7 a box, right?
Yeah. And if you fast, you save a lot of money.
That's true.
We really teach people how to budget, right?
Yeah.
So we're getting rid of all this stuff they don't need. And then you're fasting. Eventually my clients get to most of the time doing 2 24-hour fasts a week.
I love that.
So they're saving a ton of money on groceries right there that they can put towards higher quality
So
food.
true. I love that. Yes.
You can
Such an amazing
figure it
topic.
out. Even the 18-year-old in college, right? You know, saving her dollars, like, okay, I could buy some raw cheese today. She may not have it every week, but if she has it 1 week out of the month, that's an improvement than what she had the month before, right? So
Yeah. It's mindset, you know, it's not that their perspective is wrong. Yeah, eating healthy is expensive. It's definitely more expensive, but
as
it
my husband
is,
says, if you want to know what we're supposed to eat, just go look at the most expensive thing in the case, and that's what my wife will tell you need to eat.
yeah, right. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
But really, if you do what Laurie's saying, right, you eat in a crunched window, intermittent fasting, it's a whole nother topic. I'm sure she'll
Right.
have calls on that, right? You're not eating all of these snacks in here. It's the snacks that get you down the rabbit hole of big pay, you know,
And the
pay,
drinks.
sorry,
And the
receipt,
drinks.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and drinks. Yeah, just drink water. If you need to have lemon water, great. You could make homemade lemonade at home with some stevia, like great, right? But really eating a crunched window and you're just eating high quality meat and good quality vegetables in that window. I mean, you're gonna save money. Literally, you're gonna save money than eating out all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's awesome. It's awesome.
Great. I love that topic. It's so good. Meat, fat, I can't get enough.
Anyway, the conclusion of today's call.
Fat is the conclusion. We could go on for a long time, couldn't we, Olivia?
Yes, we could.
Yes. So the conclusion, do you have any parting words?
Oh, guys, don't be afraid of fat. Embrace it. Crave it because it's healthy. Just choose quality over quantity always. And get back to the basics. Sometimes just simply eating whole foods that are really basic, just covered in good quality fat. I mean, you couldn't go wrong. So yeah, thanks for having me, Lauren. This was super
I love it. We'll do another chat. I'm going to love having you on. You're amazing. Amazing.
Awesome.
Thanks everyone for joining us, and we'll see you on the next podcast.
All right, guys.
And check the show notes because I got all of Dr. Olivia's information down there.